I am audible.
Yes, audible and visible.
POI vocalize, please, but yeah. At least I will take one. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Starting from characterization, what kind of gig economy looks like, and secondly, I will talk about what lies specifically means, and lastly, I will talk about the comparative what we are supporting. Then move on to argumentation. We will talk about firstly, a labor protection is far more difficult in their side of the house, and ours comparative, the labor protection is likely to be achieved, and that will be further better. So starting from the setup, gig economy basically means individual made contract with manager company, and in the platform users ask for services, for example, taxi driving or food delivery service or whatever. And in that kind of situation, what company do is just this kind of things is what gig economy looks like. And what life specifically means is the one it used to be company is the places just there people company hire people who are obliged to deliver or things like that. So they are centralized doing this kind of economy, but the comparatively in their side of the house, it's kind of decentralized version of economy. Company won't do anything, just give the platform to doing these kind of services and makes anyone to do if they want to do. And this kind of thing is the one which lies means. And lies specifically means this kind of thing is the dominant things. Company do not do nothing. And this is kind of dominant businesses. And it's basically, as I already told you, delivery service. Since for example, having bike or car or some transportation is something that prerequisite to join the situation. In the occasion, maybe the most likely industry which they will likely to opt in is taxi or transportation services or food delivery services. And because of life, installing apps and just doing something opt into the having this kind of opportunity. So this is quite easier. So lowering the barrier to join. This is the what we think as lies means. Then what comparatively we are supporting is company take place a gig economy. And why this is likely? Because company has incentive to doing that, because there are so many demands for taxi services or food delivery services since because of COVID or because of the culture we have. And in that occasion, there are so many job opportunities for them to actually succeed. In that occasion, they have incentive to actually have take initiative to doing these kind of things. This is a comparative what we are supporting. Having said that, move on to argumentation. So one simple argumentation from PM is labor protection is difficult. Why this is true? Firstly, collective bargaining power is likely to be not used in their side of the house. Why this is true? Because they don't have any power. Because how they are paid is basically performance based, and how many deliver they does in a day or hourly or things like that. In that occasion, they do not have any things to do without do with collectively. And secondly, they don't have any association, for example, labor union. Those kind of connection is never happening in their side of the house, since they don't have any way to have some connection. And in that occasion, it is quite difficult for them to actually correcting bargaining power, since they do not have any opportunity to actually do that. And secondly, if they want to do something, some contract with some company, it is quite difficult for them, because for company they have a lot of demands of what they a lot of people who want to be employee. In that occasion, if they cut off that person, it's not that damaging the company. In that occasion, it is really likely that if they want to negotiate, just they will cut it out. They will not likely to negotiate well, and that is a reality. Therefore, and this is a one collective bargaining power is not working in opposition paradigm. And secondly, for company, it is really hard to protect and regulate since there are so many people who join this kind of things, this kind of gig economy. In that occasion, for example, if some employee doing double shift and overwork, they cannot detect. And also, for example, harassment happen in the situation or service or in taxi or whatever. In that occasion, if they are reported by someone, it is quite difficult for them to actually enforce the same things to all employees. It's quite difficult. And in that occasion, it is likely that it is hard to grasp what is going on in each cases, and they cannot cope with because these these individuals contract is difficult diverse in the individual contract, each individual contract. In that occasion, overly collapsed and overly regulated is difficult, and difficult for companies. Okay.
How do we explain the empirical fact that Uber employees collectively boycott against the corporation?
This is something that I will talk about it later. So move on to that counterfactual. This is far more important than POI responses. So firstly, collective bargaining power. Why this is likely to be happen? Okay, POI response. Collective bargaining power is far more easier to happen in our cyber house. This is a comparative. So Uber might happen, but this is not that important because our side is far more easier to happen in each individual contract. So that is far more better. So collective bargaining power, why this is happen? Because labor union or association is easy to make connection, and that will be harder better. And since for government regulation, that is far more easy to enforce because company has the incentive and has the capacity to actually regulate because they can monitor all of the things because this is centralized and they know about all of the system, what is going on. And if they do not regulate, then that will be bad for company's reputation. So they have incentive and they have collective power. So happy to propose.
Thank the speaker for the speech. I welcome the leader of opposition.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible and visible.
Okay. All will protect two types of characters. First is those who have nothing to write on job history, or because they don't have any academic record or job experience, or they have disability, therefore they have no job in the first place. And second character we will protect is those who work for full-time or part-time job, or university students like me, and have no time and have severe control on their own free time. Thus they are unable to work for ordinary part-time jobs and so on. Before talking about two arguments, I'd like to talk about couple of framings. First of all, I want to ask OG where they can work for, because in opposition side, at least we have a platform that you can certainly earn money exists, but you can't earn money in the first place in the government side. And probably the likely competitive option for them is, for example, first of all, prostitution, but it's quite dangerous for some sort of people. But secondly, maybe they can be, for example, like a freelancer to make some content on Nodes or YouTube or something. But there's no certainty to earn money in the first place. Therefore, I want to ask them where they can work for and where they can earn money. The second framing here is that I think at least corporate governance exists. Therefore, I don't think that those companies like Uber will not be so so bad for like their own workers. I think it's too early to regulate because the concept of like gig working in of itself is getting like better as time goes by. There are 3 reasons why it's getting better. First of all, because they have huge reputation risk if they like exploit their own like workers, and plus it's because the business in of itself is so fragile for like Ubers and so on. Therefore, the investors think that's like this like might like over evaluate that kind of risk, and they might pull all the money out from like those companies, right? Therefore, I think they really care about reputation risk in the first place. But second reason for this is because it's beneficial to protect revenue. It's beneficial to protect their own workers for the sake of revenue. Because if the like, for example, like salary for them is so bad, then probably they will boycott, and there will be no profitability for Ubers and so on, or Timey and so on, right? Therefore, I think it's so quite like financially unreasonable for them. But third reason for this is because market competition exists. Because it's untrue that one company fully dominate market. While Uber exists, Demagon or other type of like service also exists, right? And here is important. I think the fact that this like norm is raised is so important, because if it's not raised, probably less number of company exists in gig economy. This means that it will be much more likely for like Ubers to be more like exploitative to their own workers. For that reason, I think OG is out. 2 arguments. First argument, this is good for those who have nothing to write on job history, or those who have some reasons why they cannot work for full time. The first assertion I want to talk about is it's relatively easier to work for those kind of gig working, because you just need driver license, or in some cases you need nothing, right? And you can like easily like gain that kind of job and start the having certain type of work. Then, second assertion, I think in the status quo, i.e. in the government side, I think it's those people are unlikely to be hired. For example, those who have no experience before to work, or those who have no academic record, or those who have difficulty or some disability to work for a long time. I think it's quite difficult for them to gain a job in the first place for 2 reasons. First of all, because they will be kicked out in the first place. They will be because no one won't hire those kind of people. But second reason for this is because applicants, they themselves will hesitate to sign up or hesitate to go to have some like to have the job interview and so on, right? Therefore, I think it's unlikely that they can gain some sort of like job in government side in the first place. Next assertion, you can work by your own pace in opposition side. Impact is simple. 2 things. First of all, I think that having money is better than nothing. It's necessary to put like food on the table and live by yourself. And and also those people can like gain decent amount of money, right? As I have explained in framing. But second impact here is that they can gain experience to work. For example, like as Uber driver, you can like gain the driving technique, or if you go to like Timey and so on, you can gain experience of services. Even if they might say it's like so marginal, but I think again it's better than nothing. Then, therefore, like even if the barrier to start start like doing for gig job is low, you can gain so many things. Probably alternative option exists in government side is, for example, like relying on public assistance, or like, for example, going to prostitution and so on. But this is so problematic for them because because level of stigma put on those kind of work or those kind of services is much more severe compared to like gig working and so on, right? Therefore, there will be no stability in the long term. どっちですか?
CG です。
はい。
Okay, we believe that stigmatization exists in either paradigm, especially when the job like Uber is unstable and it seems to be like manual labor that anyone can do. How is it better in your world?
listen to my speech. As I have said, like those who have rely on public assistance or prostitution, obviously have more like much more severe stigmatization. Winning here is simple. At least they have money, and at least they have more diverse choice. Second argument, it's good to help those who need immediate cash and so on. For example, for workers who is free on the weekends or some university student and so on. Two characters protect. First of all, those who can't work as ordinary like part-time job and so on. For example, university students or people work for like full-time and so on. They're so busy to gain the part-time job, ordinary part-time job, right? Because if you like work for ordinary part-time job, you need to work for a certain period of time because they really like care about the shift of the tempo and so on, right? This is so necessary for them because they need tuition money and so on. But second character is, for example, those who lending money or addicted to gambling and so on. They need immediate money because they need to like pay back the money until some certain period. But if they don't have, then maybe they need to they need to rely on so many like consumers' finances and so on, and it will be much more unable to pay back because the debt is more piled up much more. For that reason, having gig economy is better than nothing, and it's improving.
Thank the speaker for the speech, and now welcome the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah, can I be heard?
Yes, and visible.
Okay. POIs on chat. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Take seal. If not all. I'd like to firstly finish Mitsuki's point about comparative, that why the company can provide a decent job opportunity on gap comparative as well. Then move on to the points of the workers and industry and all responding to the opening opposition case. First, on comparative. We think that companies themselves on our side who in charge of the delivery services, or like these taxi, the transportation, and all of these services that they otherwise could have been took place by the gig economy, do have rooms to hire more people, or do have rooms to provide more decent job opportunity, that they, unlike the opening opposition claim that at least it is better for people to earn some money. What we claim here is that these people can get hired anyway on our side with the better deal. Firstly, as for we already set it up, the increased demand of the delivery industry, or the increased demand of the sort of transportation, when it, the demand of the market is symmetric, because it doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden that the Uber does not rises. It doesn't mean that the COVID doesn't rises. All of the market structure of the people's economic demand are unchanging on either side of the house. That basically means that this is going to provide more bigger pies and more bigger economic opportunity for these taxi company, or delivery company like FedEx, or like Kurone Koyamato, I don't know, these sort of company will to further enable these companies to expand their scale of the services, or they can take larger number of contracts with the many different companies or many different individual customers. And I think this simply expand the services. That basically means that expand the company's demand to hiring more people, or to just in order to sustain their businesses. Simply they get more revenue. That's why they got more resources to hire more people. Even though it is per time, it is still better for every single reason that Mitsuki gave you, that they will have more quicker access to the corrective bargaining, more better legal protection compared to the individual contractor. But secondly, I think it is quite cheaper for the companies to pay it is cheaper for companies to pay worker hourly, unlike to pay each single services again and again. So the company themselves can train their workers by themselves, and they will hiring massive number of people by the company, and a centralized version of this model simply save more money for them just by rather than accepting the unexpected number of individual contractor to their own company. Then I like to talk about workers. Firstly, I think gig economy doesn't provide a decent economic benefit to the workers, unlike what opening opposition in many cases was. There are several reasons here. Firstly, it is oftentimes hard to opt into those services to begin with, as Mitsuki said. Unlike company offering goods and materials and training to acquire skill to workers, things like Uber require worker to own their car, or there are minimum amount of manuals for the labor, and all of these things are simply hard for these individuals to casually opt into these services. But secondly, this leads to the harsh competition among each individual contractor, how much delivery, how many delivery they can make in a day, whether or not they own a fancy car or not. The system of customer can leave the comments or review to the services that they got, make it even hard for the newcomers to improve their services and quality of services by getting more deals or signing more contracts. It's simply hard to improve and thriving within this sort of platform. But thirdly, demand and supply of the job is quite unstable. Even if market itself is large, it depends on the day-to-day that whether how many people want the food delivery, how many people want to use a taxi. It's simply the expansion of large size of the individual contractor basically means that they eat the pie altogether. Simply means that they may some of the successful people who already built their own know-how, build their own connection, the usual customer to use their taxi services, for example, are going to likely to be surviving anyway. But these people already got the resources, and I don't think these people, groups of the people, got large impact of the opening opposition cases. The unlike company take the contract to the other companies or customers, they can supply a constant job to their labor or their people to do a paperwork, even if they don't get the job of delivering food. They simply, company can centralize the work, they distribute the amount of work equally to everyone. That's why people can get paid hourly more stably. But fourthly, even if on individual level, there is no problem at all, but I think what we see right now is the over-concentration of the labor at the few number of places, a few number of geographical location. For example, urban area, that the most of the people uses Uber exists in the urban area, and the people lives in the suburban or rural area. There's few number of the people using Uber to begin with to order food because they already got connection to their own local food places or local taxi company, and all of these things are already dominating this market. I think all of these demand for opt into this platform is concentrating the few number of cities in many countries. Companies like Uber take the pie of the other delivery companies which could have provided part-time job otherwise, and I think it's counterproductive for these people because as long as number increases, it's far more difficult, far more smaller for individual amount of money that the individual can decreases more significantly. Upshot of all of this is firstly, it is not that desirable economic opportunity for people to opt in. Maybe they make extra money, but it is unlikely that these services can be sustainable or these sort of jobs can be regulated well. But secondly, opening opposition and closing opposition claim that they can regulate because boycott happens in Uber. It is true, but the level of control that the workers have is immensely small on their side. Workers will boycott if the large enough problem happens within the company, which can ruin their entire career. But the type of problem that these workers facing is that, for example, harassment from the customers, low fees per one services, or they don't get the proper labor protection based on the working hours and prevent the overworking and these sort of health issues. Those minimum but exhausting troubles are damaging people deadly because it is really hard to opt out from these services when it comes to the rising. The main source of the accessing labor is through this platform. It is quite difficult to canceling all of the Uber because the other people anyway doing these sort of services anyway. Lastly, rises means that it's hard to regulate. As Mitsuki said, increasing number of people means that it's decreased the capacity of company to regulate each individual contractor. It will happens the corrective action problem that the individual contractor for those who already succeeding in this sort of platform, these people don't have any incentive to just boycotting Uber as a whole. The problem here is the individual themselves cannot unionize themselves, cannot cooperate within in the same working structure because they're actually, the akanotanin, and they don't give a shit about the other people. This leads to the more harsher, more larger difficulty to unionize themselves and protect themselves. For all of that, we won't. Thank you.
Thank the speaker for the speech, and now I will welcome the deputy leader of opposition.
Can I be heard?
Yes, loudly.
the government side of the house said was basically 2 points. First, the governance of this gig economy is unlikely to be properly working, therefore it is exploitative situation. But secondly, like they said, company will hire people based on the proper working condition on the paradigm that they support from that side of the house. Therefore, therefore, what I'm going to talk is about how these 2 points is unlikely to be true. That's the way we win this debate. So first issue about the governance of the working condition about this gig economy. What we have to recognize to begin with is that this platform is likely to be a private company that seeks to be profit. What is the implication of this, right? I think the proper governance is likely to happen when this company wants profit to begin with. Why is that the case? Firstly, because if this company are listed company like Uber, for example, this company are now under the surveillance of the shareholders to begin with, or the market itself. That means that they have huge incentive to make some situation getting better, because otherwise they are being criticized and their management is going to be fired based on the market mechanism that exists currently right now. Even if this company is not listed, like same kind of mechanism happens for a simple reason that this company ultimately needs to be listed in order to get profit from market to begin with. But second analysis is that the competition that happens in between with the peer, right? This has already been mechanized from the leader of opposition, and I don't think there is huge mechanistic response from government side of the house. So this analysis does stand. The third thing we need to recognize here is that the labor also have community, right? What the Deputy Prime Minister told us is that these gig workers are likely to be individual, therefore it is unlikely to be unite. But I don't think that is not necessarily the case for a simple reason. Just see the example of the Uber Haitatsuin no Nichijou in the YouTube community, right? They have huge numbers of people who post their working condition on the YouTube, and they have huge traction from the society. I do not necessarily think that the gig workers are individual. That necessarily means that they don't have ability and incentive to unite. They know and understand it is more stronger, it is more effective when these individuals are collectivized and fight against the evil company. I don't think it is just an assumption from that side of the house that individual cannot fight back against the company. Even if this governance analysis is not the case, I mean the working condition there is somehow exploitative. Why it's still good on our side of the house? First principle we told you is that it's better than nothing, right? If you don't have any alternative way to earn money, daily, and get daily food, that is worse than our side of the house, right? Even if these people are exploited by Uber, for example, at least they get some. Some payment, even if that is very limited, right? I think that's better. But secondly, it is choice of the individual. If you feel like that is somehow exploitative situation, just opt out, right? Deputy Prime Minister asserted that people cannot opt out. Why the fuck you can opt out from that situation, right? Just quit, right? That's it. Third analysis is that that exploitation is not unique to the gig economy to begin with, just the system of capitalistic society. Therefore, I don't think there is a huge delta in between with the government side and opposition side of the house. The last analysis is that there is still chance to have betterment within this gig economy to begin with. For example, government can create some guideline that this company needs to follow, or some sort of law enforcement might happen. This all possibility were not negated from that side of the house, meaning that it is possible that this company have betterment in the working situation. And the labor protection that they told us is that labor union is stronger. Labor union is likely to be stronger in the proper company. Therefore, labor union or the unity of the individual under the gig economy is unlikely to be strong. There are 3 points of counter-analysis. The conclusion here is that these people are likely to be hired by the company in the best case in very long term, which means that it is unlikely that these labor union have huge negotiating power to the company. The first reason is that because the human connection between the labor union and the management of the company does exist under a proper ordinary company, which means it is unlikely that these labor union have huge capacity to fight against back to the company's management, for the simple reason that they have a connection. They might share history. They might share some value under a certain company. But second analysis is that basically these people are are likely to be employed under a long term, which means it is very difficult for this individual to be aggressive against the company because that might be degrade your valuation within that company, and they might not be able to climb up the ladder in the company. But third analysis is that collective action problem does happen, right? Like labor union is in the ordinary company is likely to be large, which means less effective because individual doesn't feel that's the issue that they need to be taking care of it. What's the comparative from our side of the house? Individual, less alternative, but to rely upon this gig economy, unite when the working condition is somehow horrible. Firstly, they can say whatever they want for the simple reason that the relationship between gig economy and employees are not long-term. Therefore, they can be aggressive, they can be offensive. But secondly, the problem would be urgent to each individual when we think about the character of the people who works in this gig economy. And that is a huge incentive for these people to, unite and collaborate. Any POI? Okay. The second issue that I want to talk about is that how the people are unlikely to be hired on the government side of the house. The vulnerable character that we are talking about right now from our side of the house is that those who don't have any academic records or no fixed residence, therefore they cannot write down their address in the paper that describe themselves, and they need immediate job, immediate employment. This is unlikely to be happening on that side of the house. In the ideal world from the government side, best case scenario, that the company needs to hire individual based on the long-term relationship and less liquidity within the labor market. That means that they have incentive to hire more better person, more competent person. That is the moment that the most vulnerable people are unlikely to be getting a chance to have job on that side of the house. What we are saying from our side of the house is that better than nothing if you are hired by gig economy, and that's exclusive benefits from our side of the house. Proud to oppose.
Thank the speaker for the speech, and now welcome the member of government.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Okay, for gender pronouns, prefer he, him. And for POI, please voice out. I wouldn't be looking at the chat. I'll take one maybe from opening, if not from closing. Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. One question remains not answered in the opening half. Why do companies have incentive to employ gig workers instead of full-time workers? Especially when opposition side, one, they are inexperienced, they don't have background whatsoever, and they don't have opportunity of interview, then they don't know the personality of them. And moreover, if opposition say that they have there's proper regulation, proper protection against the worker, then what exactly is the incentive of those companies to hire those gig workers instead of full-time worker? Because full-time worker is more beneficial because it seems that they don't have to look for the worker every day, every time that they need. And therefore, we believe that the result answering to this question will solve the deadlock of the opening half and also explain the reasons why the exploitation is never possible, even if the competition or even if the status quo is still the moment of getting better at the end of the day. 2 reasons to answer this question. First of all, the worker is cheap. The reason why they are cheap is there are various reasons to say so. First of all, they don't have to invest in education. They don't have to make protection against those people because they think that the risk is low. And also, because of the fact that they don't work now in long term, they don't give enough education or decent training or whatsoever so that they will be a long-term worker. Rather, they will make those gig workers do the manual labor or the works that anyone can do, continuously do those stuff and never make them train. We believe that the implication here is twofold. First of all, the fact that those workers will be treated cheaper than other workers, looking at the fact that their payments won't be promoted even if they work long time or whatsoever, will be the structure of exploitation in either paradigm because of the fact that they wouldn't be paid for the decent amount of money that is necessary for their survival. Moreover, on the point that they will be cut any moment, it proves the fact that they are stable, which is the different analysis coming from the opening government just saying that there's unstable in terms of demand. Therefore, we believe that for these reasons, the situation is harmful and cause exploitation. The opening government did a great job explaining why it's not likely to be the best environment, especially talking about like the labor union or whatsoever. As closing government, I'd like to talk about one. I think the unique impact that exists in our world, talking about the stableness, and second of all, talking about the comparative and alternative. Why the alternative is likely to better work in our world? Why that's better? Third of all, if I have time, I'd like to talk about the economy crashes. First of all, additional harms. We believe that the one big reason or the feature of the gig work is that the companies will be able to cut those workers anytime. They say that the workers will be able to cut anytime. That's true. But the flip side of it is that if the company don't want them anymore, they can cut them. We believe that the fact of this means that even if they work hard in one company, it's not necessarily true that they can work there forever. And they say that they will be able to work additional in different places by gaining skills or whatsoever. However, skills is extremely likely because of the analysis that we made. Education is not likely to exist for gig workers. Rather, it's likely that they will just made it to the manual work or something like that anyone can do, and that's it. Because those gig workers doesn't take responsibility. They don't stay longer, so they cannot take responsibility. They don't go to apologize to consumers, and like, especially when it's tiny, they don't come anymore and they don't take responsibility. Sorry, a bit later. Second reason why we believe that it's not unstable is because of the fact that when the moment of economic recession or whatsoever, looking at the moment of like economic recession, the only circumstances that they face is that they will be cut off. They will don't have the job. There's no like job that they can apply for, and that's it. They will suffer a lot. On the comparative, we believe that if they belong as a part-time worker or belong as a like full-time worker in the ordinary companies, it's likely that one not likely to be fired easily on the fact that they have on the legal protection. Second of all, the sense of appreciation against the worker. And third of all, on the point that even if that was to occur, even if they were to be fired, they will gain certain amount of financial support as a reward for working for a long time. On the comparative, if they are a gig worker, there's unstableness not only in terms of demand-supply metric, but also on the fact that structural reasons that they are easily cut off. And second of all, on the point that they doesn't have the contract to guarantee the lives after they quit, and therefore we believe that this unstableness is the additional harm that we see. Comparative, the opening opposition said that comparative is worse because they cannot earn money and public assistance is bad and stigmatized. However, the question here is what exactly is the public assistance? Why is it stigmatized? I'll explain why it's not necessarily the case and explain why government role is better. But before that, I'll take POI from opening if there is.
Regular workers is also fired easily in so many countries. Economic recession or easy to cut off is asymmetric in so many countries, in so many contexts.
We provided reasons why the gig workers are more likely to be prioritized to cut because of the fact that they don't have skills, they are easily alternable, and also for the fact that they don't have sense of appreciation. They don't appreciate those workers. They just come for a day and stuff. And also they don't make investment against those people. They don't expect a return back from those workers. Why is our comparative better? 3 reasons. First of all, as an individual level, individuals have a choice to make, individuals are likely to make the decision to get like job in terms of like hello work or whatsoever, and get support of the job. We believe that this is likely better in individual level on the fact that based on the reasons why the full-time part-time job or full-time worker is much better than that of the gig worker, but explained by me and also the opening government. Second reason is that even if that wasn't the case and the individual struggle to a certain degree, unemployment issue in and of itself will become a social problem that society will recognize as something that is need to be solved. Comparative is that, for example, talking about like some people who are mentally disabled or have quit because of certain reasons or something like that, it's likely that those people will go to the really exploitive environment, which is the gig work, and end up in such circumstances. In such circumstances, it's likely to be seen that it's the individual's responsibility that they don't try the gig work or not work on their own or work to maintain their lives in and of itself. So we believe that the system of the job assistance from the government or the welfare in and of itself is likely to be stigmatized furthermore in their work, especially when this gig work creates a trend, creates an opportunity for individuals. It's likely to enhance the responsibility argument that exists in the world. Finally, talking about the economy, because of the explanations that we provided in the characteristics of the gig workers, we believe that the quality of services is likely to extremely decline in especially when it's done by gig worker. The reason why still it survives is because of its low cost for worker. They don't have to pay a lot. However, on the point that they don't have sense of responsibility because they physically cannot, and they feel that they aren't educated enough, they aren't treated well, will create a structure that they wouldn't take responsibility and do the job seriously. As a result, that will damage the economy as a whole and the consumer as well, on the point that individuals, the quality of service or the quality of products or whatsoever is likely to decline because of its exploitation. For all these harms, happy to propose.
I thank the speaker for the speech, and now I will welcome the member of opposition.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Thanks. Right. POIs on top, please. Preferably firm opening. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before moving on to extension, simple framing, 2 things. Firstly, minimum wage are anyway secured, obviously. But secondly, I think in the majority of context, especially talking about overseas, others in Japan, I think the most of non-regular labor are also treated same as the regular labor, for the reason that there is some kind of that type of law that protect the rights of ensure the non-regular employer as same as regular worker. So I think that most of the cases coming from the government side, especially talking about accountability, are washed by this analysis. Then, having said that, moving on to our extension. Firstly, why corporations have no capacity to hire them as a regular employer. I think this extension is very important for the reason O wasn't able to deal with the claim coming from opening comment, that is to say counterfactual likely to be regular employer, but CEO uniquely feel this burden and why it is unable to do so, especially in current situation. Simply economy is dying, the company no longer able to hire them. Firstly, historical fact shows that current economy is stuck. There is trade war, inflation due to lack of wheat. Ukraine will skyrocket the price of energy like oil, gases or something like that. Simply other spending for a company are increasing right now, like the delivery charge, personal fee, buying prices, etc. I think those kind of pressure on the economy or pressure on the price spending the company are currently facing. I think that the company are unable to hire as a regular employer for the reason that simply company are currently stuck. But secondly, I think OG also conceded that this market is unstable, i.e. it is unclear in the demand. Thus, such corporation who stuck less likely to increase spending on hiring them kind of gig worker, which is unclear in the benefit that they can gain. Rather, they are likely to focus on other certain things like management or advertisement, etc., rather than increasing the number of employers in certain uncertain field, which means that the counterfactual that OG wants to talk about is unlikely to happen. But sadly, factually, there is a massive problem that less number of people are hired as regular worker. I think this is a fact that OG cannot contest. Thus, I think that these analysis completely taken down the claim coming from opening comment. That is to say, the counterfactual likely to be regular employer. That's why I think that OG's benefit are completely taken down. Then, having said that, why gig economy give people choice to work freely as they want? I think this argument is quite important because it directly connects to the goal. Directly connect the quality of life of individual type of their life. I think all was only talks about maybe some portion of people will be benefited, but I think that this analysis is going to be more general, especially talking about why comparative traditional company are bad compared to this gig economy. First thing I want to prove here is why traditional company are oftentimes bad. Firstly, in order to be hired, academic background are required. Even if you're able to manage to work, it's highly likely that go to more like more hash blue collar job or like very black corporation or something like that. But secondly, there's massive pressure to complete large amount of tasks, overworking, etc. These tasks are assigned by your boss, and you have no control over the burden you take. But thirdly, the fixed work is so much hard. You're constrained to work in early morning and wake up early morning and work late at night, and this working style are constrained oftentimes. And I think this was simply hard for the people who don't want to fit into that work style. But fourthly, accountability is not secured, rather in traditional corporation, for several reasons. Firstly, your boss there's several company that your boss push you to not report harassment, not report harassment or not join into the union movement for the reason like union movement, etc. for the reason to avoid some kind of a complex problem. And I think that those workers oftentimes compromise to what your boss said, since that this is directly connected to your reputation, your promotion in your company. I think that it is more likely to happen in the traditional corporation. But obviously, more importantly, I think in the government paradigm, this traditional company, I think people are fixed into that company that it's difficult to change the job frequently. So even though these kind of people are difficult to, even though these kind of people are currently working in the black corporation or bad corporation, I think they're very, very difficult to change the job in the very first place. So I think that it's going to be much worse in the government side paradigm that constraint in the traditional corporation. But before moving on to the comparative, OG.
Yeah, it seems like your only reasons to prove unemployment is recession. If people don't have money due to recession, why people use taxi or food delivery so often, which is fairly expensive services?
No. We just explained that corporation doesn't have any capacity to do so. And it is factually back up. I think that there's several people who are privileged who can afford to do so, but I think the corporation cannot have some kind of like loom in the loom as we already explained. Then in the comparative, why it is better in the gig economy? Firstly, I think that people are more able to casually hire. There's no requirement onto the backgrounds, like academical background or experiences. I think there's more number of people will be accepted. But secondly, it is more suitable to individual lifestyle. They're able to choose the working style that will be benefits that will be most suitable for you. Every individual have different lifestyles, so I think that in of itself is a good thing that the people have the choice to opt into the gig economy in the very first place. Like housewives after getting blank in their career or who have unstable child, I think it's going to be simply beneficial. The surgery, I think there's several platforms that enable to find the best one. In our cyber paradigm, I think because it's backed up with lies, I think there's several corporations and several platforms that's offering the similar services. I think that people are able to choose which company is more suitable for you, which company is more good for you. I think it is simply good for the reason they're able to get the more suitable working style, and everyone who willing to work can join. I think the regulation is also be secured for the reason we already explained that there is a boycott system, and also in our side of paradigm, uniquely lies get attention. For example, you can ignite the discussion on the light of the public light. I think this is only uniquely achievable achievable by the lies of the data that they are able to get attention. I think this is a unique benefit that we can gain, and regulation doesn't also have no problem oppose.
I thank the speaker for the speech, and now I will welcome the government bit.
My name is Leland, gender pronouns Eruf Mahotkai. So if you have any POI, please voice up. Okay. Going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The right of doing a work that you love to do should be assured for every citizen, no matter you get academic background or not. And on their side, in their best case, it's that all the weak people then can get a part-time job where there's no stable life, there's no protection, there's no promotion, and that's the world they're looking for. On our side of the world, even if there's unemployedness, but because people are aware of this problem, the societies pay a lot of effort to tackle with that. And on our side, uniquely, people have motivation to pursue a world where everyone can get a stable job, get promotion in the company, get health care and education. And that's why we are so proud to promote this motion. So firstly, what is symmetrical in this debate? The consensus is that firstly, the company mainly focus on the benefits. They focus benefit more than reputation. I don't think there's any question about that. But secondly, I think there's also a consensus, like if you're able to both go to a company or go to a part-time job, people prefer to go to do a long-term time job in a company than part-time job, because on the opposition paradigm, they only compare part-time job with unemployment, which means they also admit that doing a long-term time job is much better. And from that on, I'm going to tell you what's the difference between government and opposition. This motion is not opposed gig job at all. We are opposed the rise. So I'm going to tell you what's the structural difference between the government and opposition. So on the government side, what we want is we want to stay the status quo. And what the status quo look like is that most industry, like excepting like Uber industry, companies still heavily rely on the long-term hire workers, and they have to train the workers, and they have to offer health care to them. All the reason explained by my partner, because there's a long-term like contract. They hope their worker to be healthy and to be skillful, so they can create more value for the company. And also, it is very expensive for the company to hire or fire any workers, because if you fire, you have to pay compensation. If you want to hire a new worker, you have to offer education and healthcare. And on their side, because the rise of the gig work, the structure of the company is going to change. The company is going to change their system of management, change their system of risk prediction in order to fit into a society that more and more people are actually doing gig time job. And on their side, company is going to get the ability of firing and hiring employee in a very cheap price. And they are going to get the ability of running on a company where the employee is more flexible than stable. The problem, the essential point is what kind of structure that company is going to look like. And on our side, we tell you it's impossible for company to just fire a lot of people and hire a lot of new people during and after the recession. And therefore, on our side, like people like uniquely get more stable jobs. And considering the CEO, they say like, well, it is because the economy is stuck. Company are unwilling to hire a lot of employees. That's exactly what we want to tell you. Because companies are stuck, they are hoping for cheap labor, and gig workers are offering them a chance to fire their stable worker and hire like new cheap labor in a very cheap price. And we will tell you why that is problematic. It is because workers have no choice, but capitalists, they have the choice. They have the choice. During the corona, during the recession, even if all the poor people, all people with no education background, they are suffering. The rich people, they are still earning. The rich people, they still have money to make new investments. The only difference is their benefits are becoming lower. And if there is no more gig worker, what's going to happen is that they are irrelevant to hire like long-term worker. But since every year they are retirement, they have to hire new long-term worker. They have to offer the welfare. They have to offer the health care to them uniquely because the system of stable worker in the status quo. And if the rise of gig worker happens, what's going to happen is that, well, not just during the recession, but in general, those companies are less and less willing to hire long-term worker. And this is uniquely very harmful for the people who do not have like educational background, because how many jobs offered in the market is uniquely depend on the like demand of the customer, and not decided by what kind of like gig worker or long-term job I look like. And therefore, like on both sides, there's a same amount of those like dirty job, those low paid job offering. And on both sides, it is symmetrical that people with no like education background or the people who are weak in the society are going to do this job. That is a problem, but not in the range of today's debate. But we are uniquely better to protect those vulnerable people, because without the system of gig worker company, in order to hire some people to do the dirty job, where the people with education background, those people who are not the minority in the society, are unwilling to do, the company has to sign a long-term contract with those people, even if they're disliked by the whole society. Yes.
Hiring a regular worker and education is costly. Even the Uber is intrinsically low profit business, do you really think like company who enter into this market exists in government paradigm?
Well, I think as long as you look like the difference between Uber and Japanese taxi, you can see education still works. You know, those people, even those taxi drivers just learn how to drive car. They learn how to drive car very stably. They learn how to wear a suit and have a good manner. And all those experiences are going to help them to find a better job in the future. And that's why those education are important. Just look at Uber, look at Uber and look at those like gig taxi, their service are so bad. Those experiences are not going to become your shining point in the CV. And lastly about union, like union and the membership of union are sure that people have to trust each other, because if you betray the union, they're going to expel you, and you are going to find yourself very hard to get back to the industry union again. And because without union, you cannot protect labor rights. So for all those reasons, we're happy to propose.
I thank the speaker for the speech, and now I will welcome the opposition.